Welcome to the Franklin Method Fellowship. I'm your co-host Solange Ross, and I'm joined by my colleague Deborah Chassie. We are physical therapists specializing in the pelvic floor. In this podcast, we share our passion for the Franklin Method, an evidence-based therapeutic approach using mental imagery, movement, and awareness to improve posture, the way you move and feel, and overall well-being. We integrate the Franklin Method into functional everyday movements, all forms of exercise, and our physical therapy practices. We also share a love for talking about the pelvic floor. We hope to inspire you to move better and feel better in your body. Always check with your doctor before beginning an exercise program. This podcast is not intended to be used as medical advice. Let's grab your Franklin Method balls and bands. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Franklin Method Fellowship, and today we are on episode 18. I'm Deborah Chassie, and I'm with my colleague and co-host Solange Ross. And Solange is in New York City, and I'm in Orange County, California. So today we're going to be talking about tension headaches and eye fatigue. And I know in my own life, in my own experience, I've also experienced a lot of tension headaches. And just love the opportunity to find ways to release tension in my head and eye frame. So we're going to be doing some movements today related to that and help to support relaxation, posture, and body awareness.
And I think this is also super important because most of us spend too much time on our phones and too much time in front of the computer. And what we're going to show you today, these exercises are really ways to help with your posture, your whole body posture, and to release tension and let your muscles in your eyes and in your face and head and neck just get the rest that they need to get. So let's stand up and we're going to begin with a warm up. Let's begin. We're going to tap our head. So tapping over our head. And when I tap the head, I like to think about the pitter patter of raindrops. So think about raindrops falling on your head as you tap all around and help that give you just a gentle pressure on your head and neck. So in the front, we have our frontalis. On the sides, we have the parietal bones. In the back, we have our occipital bones. And in the sides, we have our temporal bones. And then we can tap gently on our cheeks and our chin. And then tap all around. And as you're tapping, if you feel called to gently nod your chin or move your neck in any way, that's also good. And let's bring our arms down, give them a shake. And maybe some of you are wondering, well, is it okay to start by just tapping the head? You know, we normally do like up here in the chest. And the answer is yes. You know, there's no magical place where you need to start. So that's absolutely okay. Let's tap on the back of the neck. So tapping on the neck and on your neck. If you feel like you need some more pressure, you can give yourself more pressure. And then tapping across the chest. And as we're tapping the chest, we can make a sound. And when we're tapping over the chest, we can also think about our lungs. We're breathing while we're tapping. And let's come to one side, tapping over our shoulder. And then let's release our arm for a second, and we're going to place our hand. So our thumb is against the neck fingers on the muscular part. And we're going to imagine that that upper trap that we're on is a sponge. And go ahead and squeeze the sponge, lift the shoulder, lower the shoulder, and release. So your sponge, we're squeezing out all the dirty water in the sponge when we lift, and when we release, it fills up with fresh, clean water. Squeeze and release. And we can squeeze, you can bend your head towards the shoulder, and then let it come down. Let your head bend to the side, release, give the arm a shake. We'll do that one more time. Squeeze, release, give the arm a shake. And here we're going to reach our arm forward as we squeeze the sponge and release as the arms come back, and then reach behind you. Squeeze and release. You're holding on to the image of the sponge, rinsing out all the dirty water. And as you release the sponge, it fills up with the freshest, clean water. Also, when you're reaching, really look at your hand, look at your arm. So you improve the connection between your brain and your body as you're moving. And the last thing we'll do is we'll give the arm just a swing. So we're going to sponge as we swing forward. And what we can do is step forward with the opposite leg. So I'm stepping forward and back. Squeeze, release. And let's bring that arm down, give both a shake. And let's just do a quick comparison, noticing where the shoulder is in space, lifting both of our arms. Can we sense a difference in how they feel? Shift your balance onto the side that you sponged. Check the other side. And even give a little kick of the leg forward to see if you notice a difference in your hamstrings. And then which side do you prefer?
The side that I just did. And
Yeah.
my favorite part is when we do the hamstring kick, because I can really see the difference.
So what's all this business with the tapping and the sponging, right? Like let's just go over what that does for us, right?
Yeah.
So when we tap, what we do is we send a message to our brain that this is where my body is in space. So we're stimulating different receptors that are in the skin, mechanoreceptors that respond to the pressure, to the sponging, to the vibration. And that sends a message to our brain and then back down to our body that's like, hey, I don't need to be up towards my ear. I can be back and down and relaxed. And the beauty is that your body just organizes itself from doing the tapping. So you don't have to walk around with your shoulder pulled back and down. You can tap because the information from these receptors will do it for you. Isn't that awesome?
That's great. I love it that we don't have to work hard to do it. It just will do it automatically.
Absolutely, because that would be too much if we're walking around thinking like I have to be in this position. Like, does that even sound right?
No.
And then we also get the benefits from tapping of really improving our lymphatics and reducing inflammation. So all of this tapping is very, very helpful in us cleansing our body, getting circulation going, flushing out toxins, in addition to releasing unwanted tension.
Mm-hmm.
Should we get going and do the other side?
Definitely.
So thumb by the neck, fingers are on the traps. Your muscle is a sponge. And when you lift the shoulder, you squeeze, you rinse out all the dirty water from the sponge, and you release. Shake the arm, it fills up with fresh, clean water. Lift and squeeze. Lower, release, and shake. And you can bend into it with your head. And when you lower, let the head fall away. Lift and squeeze. Lower and release. Do that one more time. And then we'll add our reach. So we squeeze and we reach the arm forward. And we release and then squeeze, reach the arm back. Squeeze. Release as you bring the arm back, and then squeeze as you reach behind you. Breathing as you squeeze and keeping the image of the sponge in your mind. Let's go ahead and swing that arm. Squeeze as you swing the arm forward. And then we swing forward. We're going to take a step the opposite leg. Squeeze and swing. Do you like to swing your arm?
I do.
It feels good, doesn't it?
It does. It does. My favorite memory of arm swinging is level 2 in our Franklin Method training course. I was starting to have some shoulder pain. And so I was standing next to Allison, and I said, Allison, be really careful with my shoulder when we swing arms, because we do an activity where we're swinging. She goes, don't worry. She goes, I'll swing your arm for you. And you know what? That felt so amazing.
So that's great. As we were doing that, if you got tired, right, of swinging your arm, imagine that someone's doing it for you.
Yeah.
If you got tired of sponging, imagine that someone's sponging your shoulder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's do a quick check of our shoulders, our balance, our hamstrings.
Now they're more even.
Yeah. So now I think we're ready to talk about what causes tension and headaches and eye fatigue, and I think what we got into with this warm up is one of the biggies, right?
Yeah, right. So our posture, right? So how many of us have cell phones? Pretty much everyone has a cell phone, right? Children have cell phones. And how many of us slouch and look at our cell phone and, look things up, or, are just reading into our cell phone? I know I do it too. So what does that do to our posture? Well, it puts us into a posterior pelvic tilt when we slouch, which tightens our pelvic floor. So if our pelvic floor is tight, what's that going to do to our neck, right? So, but if we're sitting on our sit bones and our neck is sitting where it's supposed to, or our head is sitting where it's supposed to on our neck and on our spine, then we'll have better posture. But the other component is we don't want to have tension. So we're removing some of the tension by sitting on our sit bones and allowing our head to sit right on our spine, so that we decrease head tension, headaches, and eye strain. So I'm going to show you. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to add something in. In the Franklin method, what we say is the best posture is the next posture, because sometimes people think, oh, I have to just get it right and be in the perfect position. And
Yeah.
we want this idea that we're balanced on our sit bones and we're in good posture, but there's a sway to it, and that the posture is dynamic and it's not just one point in space.
So we want our body to be able to be in a good posture, but be relaxed in that posture and also dynamic in the posture, right? So if you're like really focused on sitting up straight and keeping your head back, make sure your ear is over your shoulders, which I don't even think mine are. And we're holding that posture, that's going to create tension. It's going to create tension in our eyes and our head. So what we want to be able to do is recognize how we want to have some dynamic flexibility in our posture without having to strain. So we're going to do some things today that will help with that. But we all by now probably know where our sit bones are. It's the bones that we sit on, right? So we can kind of shift a little bit from side to side and feel that. And then another important structure that I want to show you, I'm going to show you from the cranium. So here is my cranium. And obviously this is the front. And the back is the occiput. There we go. So there's the occiput, and you can touch your own occiput back there and touch the frontal bone, right? So what I'm going to show you now is how and where, what structure sits on your spine. So here's the occiput, and if I turn the head so it's facing down quite a bit, you can see this hole here, and this is where the spinal cord goes into the cranium. And here, I'm going to bring it even closer, because here there's some little bump, and that's called the occipital condyle. And what that does, the occipital condyle rests on top of our first vertebrae. So it just sits there like this. But if we look at structures that are nearby, so here is the occipital condyle, this is the mastoid process, and it's about an inch away from each other. So what we'll do today when we get to that part is we'll actually be touching the mastoid process, because we know that's the nearest connection to the occipital condyle, where it rests on top of the spine. All right, so we're going to find our sit bones. And so if you lift your bottom, lift each cheek up and put your hand there, you can feel your sit bones. Kind of wiggle around. Don't let them squish your hands. And you can just kind of roll back and forth. So just creating some movement, right? Lifting up your sit bones. And notice as you roll on your sit bones that your head also moves along with it. So as I roll back, my head moves forward. And as I move my pelvis forward, my head moves back, right? And so just feel that movement. So let's now focus on what our head is doing. So we're going to come to, it's called the mastoid process. So if you go to your ear, drop down and go back just slightly, you're going to feel a bone. So through that bone is how we're going to have access to occipital condyle. So what I want you to do is go ahead and just massage right there on the occipital condyle. Go ahead and massage on the mastoid process. And the muscle that is attached here is the sternocleidomastoid. So first, let's just rock forward and back as we massage that muscle where it inserts into the mastoid process. And then we're going to follow that muscle down towards our collarbone. So start to drag it down. There we go. And right to the more centered part of the collarbone. And just give a little massage there. And if we go back up to the mastoid and find the posterior border, the backside of the sternocleidomastoid, right there is the scalenes muscle. So maybe just brush up on that. Good. And the next one we want to find are back muscles for the trapezius. So the trapezius comes up the back into the base of the skull, and also there's something called the nuchal ligament. So go ahead and put your fingers on the center behind the base of the skull and just draw a line up. And as you flex your head forward, that line stretches. The nuchal ligament tenses up.
Yeah, I can really feel that. It's very cord-like.
Yeah. And that this is the location where a lot of other muscles insert into the base of the skull. So another part of the skull is the external occipital protuberance. And maybe for sure we could call it EOP. Anyway, right here is the external occipital protuberance. So if you look, here's where the spine inserts into the skull. And then we go up, we feel a little divot right here. And then right after that is a little bump. So that is an area where a lot of muscles insert. And so we could just gently massage that. So let's take our fingers and interlace them like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to find that trapezius muscle where it inserts into the nuchal ligament. This is going to be fun. So put your fingers there. And what you're going to do is just kind of rake it. That feels really good, doesn't it?
Really does.
Yeah. I feel like I could keep doing it forever. Now, just notice how your neck feels in your posture and sitting, in your eyes.
My head definitely feels really, really light.
Nice. It does. And I feel a connection between my sacrum and the base of my skull. Yeah. It feels like my pelvis is just kind of sinking into the chair. So the sit bones are sinking into the chair. It feels very comfortable. All right, so we're going to do some more sponging with our neck. And let's go back to the mastoid process. So here's your mastoid process. And just go ahead and put your finger under it and just kind of lift up gently and do it on the other side too. Just a little lift, kind of like a balloon is lifting up your head. Right? And then you're going to take one hand and put it behind your neck. So if you can see this. And you're going to squeeze as you lift up and flex your head forward. It's too much to do all three. Then just squeeze and push up on the mastoid process. But at this time, I'm going to squeeze, lift up on the mastoid, and flex my head forward. And it's amazing. We don't need to do this for a long period of time to feel a difference. And now, take your other hand, place it on the other mastoid process, and bring your hand behind your neck. And do the same thing on the other side. Squeeze, lift, and flex. And make sure you're breathing as you're doing this. And understand too that we're actually making a connection between our traps and our shoulders, aren't we? And our collarbone. So what we're doing as we're doing this too, is we're setting up our posture so that we can decrease the tension in our head and relax the eyes. So how does that feel after you've done that?
Really feels great. I mean, my head does not feel forward at all. It feels like it's nice and balanced on top of my spine.
And my abs feel toned as I'm sitting here. What a great ab workout, right? We don't realize how many things we do that really affect the whole body. And sometimes it's right where we need it. That's what I love about it. Yeah. So in order to have relaxed eyes, we also need a relaxed neck, relaxed head, relaxed posture.
Great. One other thing we can feel, just to feel the connection between the muscles of the neck and our eyes, let's go ahead and place our hands, find the back of the occiput. And then if you slide them down and just gently extend your head, you'll feel like a little bit of a dip or like a pit. And if you gently rub over there, over those muscles, now go ahead and move your eyes from side to side, up and down, and see if you notice a sense of muscular activity under your fingers.
Yeah, I can really feel that. That's so awesome.
So now you can imagine that if these muscles are tense, or if we have our head forward and they get scrunched up and shortened, how that can put more strain on our eyes. So if we have our head just resting on the top of our spine, nice and balanced, our eyes are going to feel relaxed and not strained. So from here, we're going to explore the connections on our skull leading into the muscles of our face. So on top of our skull, we have a strong connective tissue, what's called the gallia aponeurotica. And if you take your fingers, you can just feel that you can wiggle it back and forth. Or you may notice if you hold a lot of tension that areas might feel restricted or tight.
Or tender.
And if that's the case, we don't freak out about it. We're here to improve. We can use imagery, and the exercises that we do are going to help give it better mobility. So we have this connective tissue, and it connects to a muscle in the back over the occiput, and a muscle in the front, the frontalis, over our frontal bone. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide the hand over the occiput down, and we're going to slide the hand over the frontalis up, and then we're going to slide the back hand up and the front hand down.
Kind of a rocking motion.
Kind of like a seesaw, but you want to try to keep your head just balanced and floating. So you're not nodding. What you're doing is you're getting mobility from the gallia aponeurotica into these muscles. And then what we can also do is do a little bit of a circular motion. And you can reverse the direction. And this is not the exercise to do if you've just had your hair done. So you
right.
But it certainly will feel good. And then give your arm a shake. And then we can put our hands on the side. And on the side, we have our temples and our temporalis muscles. And let's just give that a massage. And we can think about these muscles kind of just fanning out and spreading out, maybe like a tree with wide branches as you massage your scalp. And so that gallia aponeurotica, it connects into the front, into the back, into the sides, and then around our ears as well, the muscles around our ears. So we can here give our ears a pull. So gently pulling the ears to the side. And this is one of my kids' favorite things to have before bedtime. My daughter always asks for an ear pull, an ear massage. So you can pull, whoops, at the top, sides, bottom, wherever feels good to you. Kind of all feels good to me. Hmm. And then when you're satisfied, you can just notice your posture. Notice your head and neck. Notice your shoulders.
The
Notice this.
diaphragm feels relaxed.
Oh, good. Notice the
Yeah.
sensation around your eyes.
Mm.
Notice even the pressure here. When I get a headache myself, I often feel it as like a lot of frontal pressure here.
Mm-hmm.
And right
Mm-hmm.
now, I'm just noticing that that space feels really, really wide. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it's been like flattened out and wide and almost like I'm wearing like a nice compress
Mm-hmm.
over
Yeah,
my
that would feel
forehead.
good. Yeah. Yeah.
So we've loosened up our galley apparatica. We've done some release here, and this frontalis, it connects into the muscles of our face. So that's where we're going to go into next. So we have some muscles that wrinkle our brows. So a great thing that we want to do. So the brow wrinkler is a muscle called our corrugator supercilii. You don't have to remember what that's called, our corrugator. But what we can do to help those muscles is we can spread and pull apart as we spread. So lifting and pulling apart. So really trying to widen the space. And we can also come along our eyebrows. And I'm coming forward so you can see me, but you stay where you are so you don't get into your forward head. And then just lift up and spread on a diagonal. And these exercises are part of my daily routine when I put on my
Mm-hmm.
skincare and stuff.
Wow.
So it's a great
Nice.
way. It's a great way to sneak them in the morning
Yeah.
because we want to try to be relaxed and address our posture throughout the day and not only do stuff when we feel like we have the headache and we're kind of
Good point.
right, we're kind of in a mode of tension. So if we can
Mm-hmm.
set ourselves up for success, that's my recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have in the forehead another kind of, it's a triangular shaped muscle called our procerus. So we can also drag that up. Right. And then just notice and feel your posture. This one actually, for me, I just feel like it opened up my sinuses.
Ooh, that's
I
nice.
can breathe better through my nose. It's just
That's
great.
great. Yeah.
How about you?
I feel it more in my chest, just
Good.
opening things up, right? I mean, these movements, they really, it's kind of like it goes to where we need it to go, right? So right now I'm needing some opening in the chest, and that will create some opening in my chest. For you, it's, creating more space in your eyes and breathing better. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So shall we move on to the bones of the skull or
Yeah.
the eye socket? So we want to focus now on the eyes and relaxing the eyes. So decreasing the fatigue that we feel. And the eyes are just so amazing. So anyway, here is the skull again. And look at all the bones that make up the eye socket. So here's this blue one, your frontal bone, and the maxilla, which is part of the upper mouth, jaw. And then you see the yellow in here? That's the sphenoid bone. Really amazing. And another bone over here. So there's more bones that make up the socket, but these are just the ones that are really obvious. So what we want to do is just start touching them, and imagine creating space. So let's just create some space, right? Because if we want to create space, in our eyes, don't we want the socket to be able to open up? So if we just kind of lift on the frontal bone, on the maxilla, we'll pull down, the zygomatically pull out, right? So we can do that. And then how about if we make a circle and circle it around our eyes and open up our circle as we open our eyes, and then relax our circle and relax our eyes. And open the circle and close, relax your eyes. And again, open the circle and open our eyes, and then relax the circle as we close our eyes. So there's a muscle that goes around our eyes called the orbicularis oculi. And if we draw circles around it, that will help us relax our eyes even more. And this muscle has other attachments to it. It's pretty amazing. I mean, even the way our eyelids are affected by this muscle. So we want this to be nice and relaxed.
And I'm even, imagining the muscle widening rather than like forcing it to wide because you don't want to just like all of a sudden be wide-eyed, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just imagining these circles widening, and that feels good. So it might feel good to give a stretch with your fingers, but if that feels too much, then just imagining the widening.
Mm-hmm. Imagine space, creating space
Mm.
in your eye socket.
Wide, deep eye sockets.
Yeah, and what's amazing too is that the eyeball itself is more forward. And so the eye socket has a lot of space between the eyeball and the back of the socket. So just imagine some space behind your eyeball into the eye socket. It gives me a sense of peace, just feeling that, noticing that in my eyes. So the other thing that we can do too is imagine that the bones around our eyes are just floating. And we both love to swim, right? Imagine floating in the water and imagine our eye sockets just relaxing, floating, separating, giving it space. You can breathe while you do this. And each time you take a breath in, imagine the widening, creating space. And then you exhale. And then breathe in, space. And exhale. And again, breathe in. Nice space. So something else that's really helpful for the eyes to do and will help relax them is first pay attention. When you look at something close, say your cell phone, do your eyes feel strained? Compared to, I'm looking out my window and I can see a tree and I can see the other house next door. And if I even look further into the distance, I see other trees. And so if you notice what that feels like on your eyes when you look into the distance, what do you notice, Solange?
When I look into the distance, it's just a feeling of just like wideness. I feel like when I look at something close, kind of my eyes feel like they get scrunched up a little bit. It's the
Mm-hmm.
sensation that like I'm not actually squinting, but it's sort of like a little, I feel like a little bit like I am squinting when I look at something close versus when I look into the distance, I feel just more of like a spreading out and space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's what it feels like to me.
yeah, yeah, that's great. So something that we can do to relax our eyes is to periodically look out into the distance. So when you're on a walk, it's easy to just look at where you're stepping, or maybe you're listening to something on your cell phone, or and you're not truly focused on what's around you, right? Because if you're distracted by cell phones or other things, it's just harder to, you know, see other things that you're supposed to see. So one of the things that I like to do is I go on a trail walk. And along this trail, there's all types of greenery, shrubs, different types of herbs, all just in flowers and, wildflowers just blooming. And birds are flying around. And then off in the distance, I can hear the ocean and see the ocean. So, on this trail, I just find that very relaxing for my whole body. And even though it may not be that long, like, for exercise, I would do, say an hour walk. But when I do the trail, I don't even need to spend that much time on the trail because it's already creating so much relaxation because I'm making it a point to look into the distance. Like, oh, look at that tree. Look at that bird. Oh, there's a hawk. Right. One time we were sitting on some dirt on the trail and flew right over us. That was so
Nice.
amazing. Yeah. But if we're not focused on looking out and observing, then it's going to be harder to notice those really special situations where we can see more of nature. And nature does bring us relaxation.
Absolutely. And then we have a great exercise that we can do if we can't get out into nature and we're doing computer work, where our eyes feel tired wherever we are. We can also do an exercise where we imagine that we're looking at an object close and that we're looking at an object far away in the distance. So we're going to send you off with this final exercise. So if you're wearing glasses, you can take them off and you'll rub your hands together. And then with your eyes closed, place your hands over your eyes and let your head rest forward in your hands. And let's imagine that we're looking at a beautiful flower in front of us. So what flower are you looking at, Debbie? What do you see?
Yeah, I see a beautiful red rose.
Okay. So we're
Red,
gonna,
nice and red.
okay. So we're gonna look at the red rose, the petals. Maybe that red rose is outside and it has dewdrops on it from the morning. So can you see the dewdrops on the red rose?
Yeah.
And then what we're going to do is we're going to imagine that we're looking into the distance. And what do you see in the distance?
I
Deborah, is
see a
there
mountain. Yeah, I can see a mountain, a snow-capped mountain.
okay, so in the
Several of them.
distance, there's snow-capped mountains. So focus on the snow-capped mountain in the distance And maybe there's a blue sky around the snow-capped mountain,
Or
whatever,
clouds, puffy clouds.
puffy clouds.
Hmm. And sometimes you can see a shape, maybe a cloud looks like an animal or something else. That's always
Okay,
fun.
the shapes and the clouds that are passing by. And then we're going to come back and we're going to focus on the rose that's right in front of us. So look at the red rose, the petals. You can imagine that you're touching the petal of the rose. Maybe you can smell the scent of the rose. And then now look into the distance at the mountain. See the mountain and the clouds. Maybe pops of blue sky in between the clouds. The snow caps. And then come back to looking close at the red rose. See the beautiful color, the shapes of the petals, the detail that you can see in the rose. And then look into the distance again and see the mountain, the icy snow caps, the clouds surrounding it, some patches of blue sky. And then we can slowly take our hands away. And when you're ready, open your eyes. And then just
It
take
was
a
nice and
moment.
relaxing.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Take a moment just to notice what's around you to see if maybe you can see in more detail. How your eyes feel, how your mood feels.
Mm. Peaceful.
Peaceful. That
Hmm.
exercise, like I feel like smiling after that
Mm.
exercise. I feel like I'm
Hmm.
in a smiling state.
Mm. Nice. I'm noticing little things, like shapes in a window that have to do with the reflection of the sun. Just little
Mm.
things are jumping out that are more um, pronounced.
Oh, good. Well, I hope this exercise has rejuvenated your eyes and that you use it when you need a break.
Yeah, definitely. People should really, especially if they're working on the computer, so many jobs require that. And so working on the computer, your eyes kind of get tired, fatigued. So it's good to have your eyes take a break periodically throughout the day, give them a rest. And maybe as you're on the computer, picture something that you like to look at too, just like the exercise we did. Or maybe you have access to a window and then periodically you can look out and see the trees and the sky and mountains and, beautiful things that we like to look at.
Well, great. I hope this practice was beneficial for everyone. We did a lot to create good posture for our head and neck, being balanced on our sit bones. We did exercises to release muscles that hold a lot of tension, and we noticed how that really gave a lot of space and relaxation to the head and neck, but also the muscles of the eyes. Um, we saw all the bones of the skull and the eye socket, and just imagining those bones floating and the muscles around our eyes being wide and having space in our eye sockets. Um, and lastly, giving our eyes the opportunity to rest. So
Mm-hmm.
we so we hope this practice is helpful. for everyone. And leave us a comment about how you enjoyed the practice. And if you liked this episode and you're looking for more, we have a patron program where you get short practices that go with each episode. So you can build a whole library of exercise practices to work with. So we thank you for listening. And if you want more, join our patron program.
Yeah.
And Deborah, it was great to work with you today and share these exercises and our joy in bringing the Franklin method to all of you.
Likewise, Solange. It's great to see all of you again out there in the world. And bye for now.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the episode. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we would greatly appreciate it if you would leave us a review. You can also become a patron of the podcast. Join our patron program to get access to movement practices from each episode, bonus episodes, and Q&As where we answer any questions you have about the practices. We look forward to practicing with you and continuing to share our passion. As we say in the Franklin method, better information leads to better navigation. Keep practicing, and we'll see you next time.